Hello everyone and welcome back to One Fall Theory. In today's video we're going to be taking a 25-year step back in time as we look at the iconic King of the Ring 1998 Hell in the Cell match between The Undertaker and Mick Foley. And to truly do this match justice, we can go to none other than good old JR Jim Ross's autobiography, the man who put his iconic voice and calls to this unbelievable match. So today, our source material comes from JR's autobiography, My Life in Wrestling, that was put together by JR and Paul O'Brien, published in 2017. I really hope you enjoy it. It was only a few minutes into the match, and I genuinely thought my friend was dead or dying. Mick Foley wanted to top Shawn Michaels' performance in the previous Hell in the Cell match, and the way he chose to do it was by climbing to the top of the cell structure that covered the ring and goad his opponent, The Undertaker, into following him up there. Undertaker made his famous entrance and duly joined Mick 20 feet above the arena floor. The weight of both men immediately put the structure itself to the test, as their collective 600 pounds tore the wire mesh under their feet as they walked. I was positioned at the edge of the cell on the floor and watched on my monitor as both men battled over the side where Jerry and I were sitting. Beside us, the Spanish announce team led by Hugo Savinovich. On top of the cell, Mick and Taker threw punches and went back and forth at the very edge to make the audience think something bad was going to happen. And then it did. The Undertaker threw Foley from the top of the cell. Mick fell 20 feet through the Spanish announce team's table at ringside, his 300-plus pound body exploding the table as his body slid limply under the guardrail. From my vantage point, Mick Foley had disappeared under the collapsed table, and I had no idea what shape he was in. Good God Almighty, they've killed him. As God is my witness, he is broken in half, I shouted. My words were real. My worry for Mick was real. My shock was real. Lawler, also stunned, was muttering, "Oh my God, oh my God." I turned my attention from the audience at home to the people in the back. Somebody get out here, really, I mean it. As the monitor filled with replays of the fall shot from different angles, I still couldn't believe what I had just seen. All I could muster was, look at that, folks. Seconds went by, and Foley was still lying there, and I could feel the anger rising in me. We need doctors out here. If someone can get off their butts in the back and get somebody out here. But Lawler and I weren't the only ones worried about him. Even though they had recently been feuding on television, Terry Funk left that behind to come and check on the man he'd fought and mentored across the globe. Lawler was calling for help for the Spanish announce crew who had been in the path of the plummeting 300-pounder. Jerry noted that Mankind was starting to stir as medical help finally got to Mick, in the form of a doctor, some officials, and a team of paramedics carrying a stretcher. Even Vince McMahon set aside his evil on-air persona to see if Mick Foley was okay. Mick didn't appear to be cooperating, and Terry Funk looked almost tearful as he implored Foley to get on the stretcher. I thought Mick's career was over, maybe even worse. He was alive, he was breathing, but everyone around him felt he was in bad shape. They wheeled him slowly from ringside, with The Undertaker still looking down from on top of the cell. Apparently as quick and unusually as this match started, it had ended, I said. But Mick didn't get that memo. The paramedics didn't get too far with the hardcore legend before he fought his way off the gurney, made it back to the cage where he once more, against all logic, climbed to the top of the cell. As big as Mick was, it wasn't easy for him to scale the fence for the first time, much less after the damage he had absorbed, but he made it. The fall from the top of the cage onto the ringside table was something Foley and Taker had worked out, but the next stunt wasn't in anyone's plans. Undertaker was to chokeslam Foley onto the top of the cage, and Foley would sell it as Undertaker climbed down into the ring. Instead, when Foley's body hit the cell, a part of it gave way, and it swung open like a steel trap door, leaving Foley to fall all the way to the mat back first. Even worse, the chair he tossed on top of the cage earlier was right behind him and ended up smashing him in the face as he landed. This time, even Undertaker seemed shocked as he looked down at Foley. The doctor, referees, and medics rushed into the cell as Lawler said, "That's it, he's dead. The King, known for his sharp humour, wasn't kidding. Somehow, that impact had knocked out one of Mick's teeth, which lodged itself in his left nostril, as a gruesome camera close-up would show a few minutes later. The whole performance was scary, and I was doubly convinced that the match was over. I was sure Vince was going to come back out and announce that that was it, and I don't think one fan would have been upset had it ended right then. I even screamed, "Would somebody stop the damn match? Enough's enough!" But after being out cold for a minute or so, Mick was apparently looking to finish the match. The Undertaker climbed down into the ring through the opening Mick's second nasty fall had created. Funk, being the old pro that he was, took a couple of shots from Undertaker to buy Mick a few more seconds of recovery time. Finally, they all cleared out, and after a short brawl, Mick pulled out a bag of thumbtacks and dumped them all over the mat. Of course, the villainous Mankind's plan was foiled, as Undertaker slammed and then choke-slammed Mankind onto the thumbtacks before finally ending it with his signature tombstone piledriver. Everyone took a huge sigh of relief when the bell rang to signal the end. I was one of Mick's biggest advocates in the company, but as I sat there, I couldn't help but think Mick went way too far in that match. I admired his guts and toughness, but he never needed to get even close to that level of danger. After he got to the back, Vince thanked him for putting himself out there to make the show, but then added, "Don't ever do anything like that again." I had a similar conversation with Mick a couple of days later, in my role as head of talent. "You're never going to be around here to make the money that's there for you," I said. "You're too entertaining and too skilled not to figure this shit out. You don't have to be Cactus Jack, splattering yourself on the concrete." Mick listened to me and Vince, but I had a feeling as I shook his hand there was still that wild look in his eye, that need to give the fans what he thought they wanted from him: his body. Okay, we'll stop it there. An incredible excerpt from JR's book and really an unbelievable moment in time. There isn't too much to review here other than to say I cannot believe that it has been 25 years since this unforgettable moment, and really a call that will last, I feel, an eternity. Thank goodness that JR was there that night. Thank goodness that Mick and The Undertaker were willing to put their bodies and their lives on the line to entertain us in a match that I think none of us will truly ever forget. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been One Fall Theory, where we smarten up and smack down. I thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to see you in our next video.